No.
This is Steve DeKnight, writer of Apocalypse Nowish.
And I'm Vern Gillum, the director.
In the middle without. Why no? It's
Originally, this is the appearance of the big bad of the season, the Beast. Originally, we had planned to have him appear later, but the WB scheduled us so episode 7 was the last one of the original programming before the Christmas break. Then we were off for like a month and a half, so we had to revise some stuff and really cram a lot into this one episode, making Vern's job even harder.
Talked right over a great shot there. Is that what happened? Is that why it came up when it did? It was
it was a timing thing with the WB.
So you, as far as getting all the costuming and that sort of thing together, we got lucky then, right?
Yeah, especially with the design of the Beast. It was well, you know, I was down checking out his paint job while you were filming, because it was that close.
Sort of the nature of costume making.
Right, especially with something as complicated as the Beast. And I'm sure we'll talk later when we actually see him about the poor stunt guy inside the Beast, Scott Workman, that we almost killed. And this scene right here is setting up Cordelia and Connor. Obviously, Connor's had a crush on her for quite some time. And can you say enough good things about Vincent Kartheiser? He's just such a great guy to work with.
I was so impressed with this kid. I can't tell you. He's on his way to doing some really fabulous things. He never missed a beat. He was there every single time.
He really is, and he gives just as much when he's off screen, when you're doing a close-up on another actor. He just gives it 110%. In editing, we always talk, we can always cut to Vincent, because there's always like 12 things going on behind his eyes.
Yeah, and the other thing is that when you say the off-camera part, what he'll do is he'll bail you out of sequences, where it may not be holding up where you think it's going to hold up.
Right.
He can adjust his performance to make it work. Is absolutely prepared every second. I mean, you just.
It's coming, and no one can.
And in between takes, what always impressed me is that most actors go back to their trailers, but he's out hanging on the back of a truck with the crew, just hanging out with everybody.
I think he asked for a additional take once in the whole show that I can remember. He comes out and his first take will be like as good as he gets.
There's our first look at the Beast, which I think we did second unit.
Yeah. That particular shot floated around for a few days on the schedule.
And the show's off and running. I always felt, when I wrote this episode, this was my second episode of Angel. I was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer for a couple of seasons, and then I came down. One of the things that really interested me about Angel was the great fights they did. And I thought, wow, I can go down on Angel and really do some cool fights. And then I got this episode, and obviously I was doubly thrilled. The entire Act 4 was the biggest fight we had ever done.
Well, I think that the thing that helps you on that is that the stunt coordinator doubles David, and so you can ask him to do anything.
Yeah, Mike Massa is incredible,
and Mike will deliver it, and he's so much like David, you can almost come around on him in places.
I love the performance you got from David in this scene.
No, I'm not judging. Do we fight snakes?
Only if they're giant.
That's a great
Unless
shot.
This guy's 30 feet tall. I'm thinking.
But there you were.
And of course, all through this episode, Lauren keeps getting on the phone with these people calling in about the apocalyptic signs and wonders. And, snakes coming out of people's butts and all kinds of stuff going on.
A week, maybe.
And here comes the rat section. I sadly was not on set for the rat section. By design, of course. How was Jay with the rats?
Jay is terrified of rats.
Just like his character.
No unacceptable.
I mean, this guy is the nicest guy in the world. I was so astounded to find that he just couldn't. He couldn't even be near them, and it was just total. It was just torment for him beyond anything you can imagine.
And now I'm really sorry I missed it.
Yeah, I mean, we lost him. We literally lost him. He just couldn't stand it, and we had shots that we had designed that we couldn't do with him. He just couldn't do it. He just couldn't handle it.
Oh, poor Jay.
There, my mom will be enjoying that.
In post-production, we can never quite get the sound right, the creepy groaning sound. It always sounded like, somebody scratching instead of a more deep, ghostly sound.
You mean for right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for when they first hear that creepy sound of the plumbing.
I think it stopped.
I remember watching the dailies of the rats, and, by and large, if you leave rats to themselves, they just kind of sit there and look cute.
Yeah.
Which is a little hard.
The problem with rats is, like you said, I actually was talking to the director that did Willard over again, and he was going through the same thing, but he never went out with less than 500, and our budget didn't.
Right.
But it's hard to keep them moving. It really is. We had them dropping out of the light fixture and things like that.
Yeah. In that scene, we had originally planned it to be CGI spiders pouring out of everywhere. But of course, the big fight scene at the end took up the budget.
Giant?
Ah, the infamous
Big
scene.
brain and a tight little.
This was the funniest thing for me. I was just talking actually to Josh Whedon about this, where I walked onto the set for the first time in a year, and I had worked with these characters before, and we had to figure out they were going to make love in this scene, right? And so they were saying, well, we'll see, we've done it on the table, we've done it in the kitchen, we've done it in the chair, we've done it on the floor, we've done it on the coffee table. And of course, the only place left was the sofa, which I found all of America sort of.
Come on. Do you think?
Unless you're watching the series, you wouldn't know that that's sort of an unusual thing for them.
I remember Joss told you that he wanted more thrusting in the sex scene.
Yeah.
And in editing, it just we had a hard time cutting around. Because in the dailies, they are acting up a storm.
Yeah. It's very realistic.
Stephanie is great in this because she's doing the whole Fred act, but right under that you can see her vulnerability, that it really does hurt her. Wesley's such a cad. And, of course, in the dailies, this part goes on and on. Now, originally in this scene, there is we cut out half the scene.
Yeah, he did.
Because it starts up that Gunn explains why he hates rats, which is the fact that he woke up one night when he was a kid, and his sister was screaming, and the rat was chewing on her leg. But it didn't cut well with the sex scene to go straight into a gory story about rats. I love what you did in this scene between these two.
Forget it.
I thought that they really they were really into this scene, and I think part of it was the part that was cut off that sort of got them there. You
Right.
know what I mean?
And this is the first time they really talk about what happened with Professor
not what I
Seidel
meant.
and the
You
murder.
sure? I couldn't let you carry that.
It wasn't your choice.
Fred, it's not who you are.
Jay in particular
It isn't
here, I
in your
thought
heart.
was really
It's in
right on,
yours.
It is now.
especially that line right there. You know, it's amazing. Sometimes just the simplest staging of a scene can make such a difference.
Well, I think you're trying to help them too. You know, so they can just work on their acting and they're not worried about where they have to
Right.
be.
Talk about great shots. That 180 is
Well, this is something I try to do a lot, and that is I try to see how long I can get the scene to go before
Right.
I have to cut, and
word of mouth.
I love this. I just think this is like so.
Or rearrange finish him off. What would you throw me?
A towel?
David is really good with props. He
Yeah.
he really likes to work with them. It helps him just, I think, on a day-to-day basis to get through it every day.
Yeah.
Wore off.
This scene was a
Thanks.
tricky scene to write because it really all revolves around something that happened in the previous
She probably would've
episode,
staked you.
the spin the bottle episode.
Yeah.
She's pretty tough.
So just coming into it without seeing
She is.
the last episode, it really doesn't make sense. I think we
staying
trimmed
with me.
quite a bit of this down to,
Yeah.
You know that, right?
to get it moving a little
Yeah.
faster
That's good.
because we have to get to Act 4 as fast as possible
Or you're going to put a lot on the ground,
with
right?
the big stuff.
Talk to her. Got her after everything she
Didn't we have a slight
last
problem
thing
with
she
the way
needs is
Andy was
dad.
dressed because he just blew everybody else off the screen with his
Please.
bright suit?
No, I didn't. I just thought it was him. I mean,
He's a very colorful
yeah,
character.
yes. How- Definitely green. It's got that.
I'm gonna.
Oh, poor Connor. He just can't take it.
Last little look.
A woman of his dreams with his dad. They did a great job here, too.
Something or
You really felt it. A lot of the fans over the years have been queasy, to say the least, about Cordelia and Angel
I always
being in love with each other.
You know that.
And of course, later on in the season, you find out that the whole thing has been orchestrated by a higher power. So you're left with the feeling of what's real and what isn't. But
Anything.
but right here, he is still smarting from the previous episode where she left him high and dry.
I got
And at this point in the season,
Sunnydale.
her actions seem
Just meeting you.
erratic at best. And of course, later we
I
find
wanted
out
to tell
why.
you, but
One of the things about this particular season, the season 4, it played out almost. I think timeline-wise, it's about 3 weeks, the whole season.
Really?
Because we go a lot from one day to the next. And it's all one story arc. So oftentimes in an episode, there's so much information to get across because you've got to revisit what just happened and you're setting up what happens in the next day. It's not a lot of standalone episodes.
And pain.
So, you could get really bogged down. And
And how much you enjoy.
conversations like this, we try to combine the two different
Right.
sides of it. Here we're referencing things that just happened and we're setting up what's about to come.
Well, this was difficult too because there was a lot of these scenes, not a lot, but there were a number of these scenes that were, like 3 pages.
Yeah.
And they, they really, I was just knocked out by David was there because he learns that dialogue in a real short period of time.
Yeah, he does.
He's coming. He's coming now.
You still have.
And we just saw our
I thought they weren't.
shot of our monster crawling through the big chunks of foam, which was written slightly different in one of the scripts. He's supposed to be crawling up through the bowels of the earth. But,
we had a down shot there someplace of his hand coming out and
yeah,
steamy rocks and stuff, and that was again another one of those
Big
phone booth shots that kept floating
yeah.
from day to day on the boards. And,
Yeah, ultimately, at the end of the day, we thought less would be more with that particular
Yeah.
section. As the concept was great,
Yeah.
but not being a feature, we couldn't really execute it the way we had
Until we're all
envisioned, because we spent all the money in Act 4.
won't stop.
we had that thing was must have lit that about at least 2 times. I know that we didn't shoot it.
And once you watch the rest of this season, you see here that she's manipulating Angel.
Maybe if Lauren.
Is
raised
basically our master plan in this section. She's manipulating Angel to get him out of the picture for part of this episode
need
until
to
the
know.
Beast arrives.
Describe it.
We really
in
crammed
detail.
everything in here: mucus, blood, rats.
Letting up.
His calls were
Wrestling up some adorable reinforcements.
I don't know where
hysterical.
she is.
And of course, we're really highlighting
Yeah,
the
that sounds horrible.
the breakup of Fred and Gunn. It doesn't happen until further down,
You two okay?
but
her
we lay the seeds in this
Up to you.
episode pretty strong. I think Andy had hurt his back a couple of weeks before this, didn't he?
Yep. Yeah.
He was having some trouble.
Yeah, and he doesn't usually, from what I understand, I hadn't worked with him that much before, but I understand he's always sort of like right on the money.
Yeah.
He was just having he was in some real pain.
Yeah, yeah. He's a real trooper here, though. I mean, he really came
Got
through
what he
some
deserved,
stuff.
didn't he?
Do you remember here where you wanted Jay to touch that bird,
Yep.
and he wouldn't have anything to do with
Yeah.
it? Yeah, no, I'm not touching it. No,
Might not be dead.
that's as
It
close
is-
as he gets
That's
to it.
that's it. Yeah, that was the same thing with the rest.
And of course, now here off screen we have people with air cannons and these
Bird
birds,
cannons.
the bird cannons, and other guys with paintball guns.
I love that one.
You think?
Stephanie.
Well, don't.
Yes.
Shut up. Give me an incident report. Cross.
And plot-wise, on the phone, she's getting an update that there's been a 300% increase in paranormal activity
Let me get back to you.
which is the Harbingers of Doom. That line, of course, the vampire detectors line, is Wolfram and Hart is supposed to have these psychic vampire detector guys, so no vampire can get into the building. So, of course, we had to explain why
I'm having a bit of a day.
Angel is in
Yeah.
there.
Say we skipped the usual.
Ah, Daniel Day Kim.
Yes.
Couldn't you have at least?
Yeah, I felt, I'd always wanted to write for him, and then in one episode that I have him in, he's tied up and he never says anything.
Work it on your own time. I'm not on the clock here.
The poor guy sat there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
You're trying to decipher what you took.
We,
on
of course, he gets decapitated in the next episode,
not going
and
there right now,
the
because
zombie
every time they peel
episode.
back a layer,
And we were all sorry to see him go, and almost immediately he got a running job on 24.
now'd be a good time.
And,
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was like the head SWAT tactical ops guy,
You got it straight from the
and
Whatever Lauren-
looking damn fine in his special ops uniform. I mean, it was a great thing for him. He did just a great job on that show.
I can smell it on you.
She knows.
Maybe we can
I
help.
remember this was a little bit of a difficult scene.
Kiss my
You
ass.
see that David's holding a script in his left hand.
Sandbox.
Is that a script?
That's a
This would be
script.
the part where I'd make a
His little day runner there that he's got in his hand.
Oh.
Every time we would cut, he would open that up and
Oh, so his script's inside.
his script's
He's,
inside.
he is ingenious.
Yes, he's always
You had no idea.
got it because it was a tough one to
Yeah.
get. We just cranked on this day. There was a lot of page count to do on this day.
Yeah. It was a big page count. In the scene, there's a lot of
You helped me. I
turns to it
Wolfram and Hart makes you
that
employee of the month for
can be
protecting
difficult. But
everything they
again, you
said
did a great
for the last
job.
1,000 years.
I like the relationship between these two. I mean,
Yeah.
I just think it's just so much fun. I mean, it's just a laugh a minute because they're
And if that's
just
the way it goes.
constant banter.
You
you
win
know.
again.
See that last glimpse at his script
Yeah.
off campus? This was where I was ready to shoot this scene, and I started lighting candles, and they said, "I'm sorry, you can't light candles. We don't have a fireman on the set."
Sneaking up on people. Your dad's an expert.
I was just making You're important to me.
More great stuff from Vincent.
He's just, I was thinking about him the other day. You could bet the family fortune on this kid. I mean, he really,
Complete
he
sentences.
can really do it.
I've been working on it.
Yeah, especially when he gets the right material.
And it's tough because he's supporting this. You know, there's
Yeah.
a lot of dialogue that she's
And I have to go.
wrestling
Now
with,
it's
and
dangerous.
always there to help her.
He is just a godsend in the editing.
No.
It's, no matter what's
But for
going
the
on.
first time since I've
just
been
cut to
back, I
Vincent.
feel like I have. Before
We've
all
always
this
said
was
he is just
empty,
absolutely
just
the best
waiting for my
listener.
life to start.
Yeah.
You always get the feeling he is really, really listening to what's going
I
on.
know why you're here.
No, that's that age-old, directing problem that they give you where
It's called being
you shoot
18.
the scene and you shoot the people
If you
who are
make it past
listening and
21,
not the
things
people
get a
who are
lot better.
talking. And
They already have.
you find out real quick, who
You
can
are
act.
getting awfully good with words.
There's a little sexy
Yeah.
something going on between these two. A little subtext that becomes less sub later.
Yes.
What is it?
This was our last night of principal photography.
Yes, it was.
No.
This is the alley outside of
She
Caritas,
died here.
where
He was he was born.
where he
where
was
you were
born
born.
in the 10 Minears episode. Here comes the beast. You remember the scissor lift?
Yes, I do.
The beast is in a pit and he comes up on a scissor lift, and we had to cut around it because he burst up. Then it's like. To finish that story,
Yeah.
he bursts up on the scissor lift, and it's like a slow, and he comes to a stop. It's a great shadow you caught there.
Yeah. And he, this worked really well. Considering, she's pregnant and we have to
Yeah.
sort of handle her with kid gloves. And,
Right. Most of these shots are Scott Workman in that suit. And Vladimir is in the close-ups.
Scott earned his money on this show.
He certainly did. The suit was extremely uncomfortable. Especially early on. You remember when he, we were standing on the rooftop set, and Ian Wolfe, the first AD, suddenly comes screaming through, yelling for a trash can.
Yeah, right.
And Scott Workman in his Beast outfit right behind him, and he threw up because they had the horns were screwed into like a head plate that was squeezing his head for 14 hours a day.
Nobody's seen her.
The poor guy.
They were really tortured him.
They really did. I would fully expect him to just keel over a couple of times.
Well, he did
Pick up the Burkle vibe.
once, and
No, but it sounds comforting.
we just had to sort of put the brakes on.
Yeah. There's a
Didn't
little
ask.
tough
Didn't
guy
have to.
talk.
Yeah.
Since you brought it up, where is she?
My hat's off to Andy for speaking that mouthful that I jammed into him. Not the smoothest sentence I've ever written.
But he has a lot of that kind of
He does. He
I mean,
does.
it's
and he does
it's
it
kind of
really
fun.
well.
Every time you open your mouth, you're just not sure what's coming out next,
Right.
If we don't stop what's coming, it won't matter where Fred is.
Ah, the Wolferman Hart papers.
God almighty. Remember this. This was Nightmare
Lila?
being created as we shot.
You trust her?
Yeah, when we got onto the set, the papers in the script are supposed to be densely packed with information, so you can't really tell what's about to happen. And in these first shots here,
Then do something large and
they didn't put enough information on them. So, while we're shooting this, they're off jamming in more densely packed papers. So later in the close-ups, you'll see papers that have a lot more information on it. There
Yeah,
you saw one.
yeah.
You saw one of the more densely packed papers. Great the way you film this, because they're just sitting there talking, but you get the feeling that the camera keeps moving, so it keeps pushing it forward.
Fallen. We don't have time.
At the script level, we went kind of round and round of who should figure this out, and ultimately, we really wanted to give Gunn the key, that, so he's not just the muscle, that he sees something no one else does. I was really worried about this shot, whether or not it was too obvious, but it completely works.
Yeah, no, it really did. It just fell out in there,
Yeah, a little music sting there really helps it too.
All right, now we're gonna get serious here. This is about where you started having apoplexy, about right here, wasn't it, Steve?
Yeah, I believe it was. Yes.
Oof.
Yes, to start with, I guess I misunderstood. It was kind of like a Spinal Tap thing, where I expected, the 30-foot Stonehenge, and I got the 3-inch one.
Yeah.
I expected this to be like 3 times bigger.
Yeah.
But it works great. Here comes my one artistic contribution to the episode. I actually put the dots on that map. Notice my fine dot work.
Yes, there was a lot of occasions of paranormal activity there.
Sorry.
There was actually one more scene. There was a scene with the waitress and Fred before this that we cut out, because we wanted to move things along a little faster, and it really didn't propel
There wasn't
the
much
story.
happening in there.
No, there, as written, not a lot at all.
Well, I think you sort of wrote it to break something up.
Yes.
Did you?
Yeah, yeah, and then it just wasn't necessary.
Whatever's
And that's what the scene was about, right?
That's right. Really, which if we had had a couple $100,000 more dollars, we really wanted to destroy that diner.
Well, yeah, we just really had a couple of things that we could that were on wires, and it was really I tried desperately to get something going.
And it works great. I mean, the complete destruction wasn't necessary. I just like to destroy things. Now, here, of course, is Connor. This is the first time Connor's ever actually broken anything.
I thought maybe I still had
See,
some
he thought he
grand
was
purpose.
quasi-indestructible.
Me being here could
And you see the little burn mark on Cordelia's neck.
Right.
All you know is that thing can
Originally for the Beast, we had an idea that he could control his temperature.
Uh-huh.
We wanted to have a whole thing where, you fire arrows at him and they explode into flames before they hit him. But we decided just to make our lives a little easier. And
Well, we were gonna try to add effects for when he touched her too.
Yeah.
And we just that kind of.
I love that high up shot.
Yeah.
When I was following you around this whole time, really watching what you were doing, because I was preparing to direct my first episode later on, and I definitely stole that shot in my episode.
Yeah,
the nice high earthquake
it's
shot.
It's sort of an interesting. It's an interesting set. It looks like something from up high too. It sort of takes you out of the immediate,
right?
Scenario.
Here's the big moment where Angel invites Wes back into the group. Go do some killing. And now, finally, what we've all been waiting for. The big fight. All the beautiful dead people.
Yeah.
The guy on the wire.
I'm gonna need a bigger arrow.
Now this fight took us 2 full days to film. And the second day, boy, it was down to the wire. We finished, and I think they were tearing down the set like 3 hours later.
That's right. The set was coming apart. There was no going back.
My hats and everything else off to Scott Workman here. He's doing the lion's share of the fighting. Mike Massa,
Yep.
the one-shot take through the pillar.
Yeah. Well, you do that once and you got.
Yeah, just amazing.
You know, we were discussing the fact that he's stone or lava. You know, that we would put spark hits on him for these fights.
Right.
In that 5 minute that we were going to use for each one of those takes, that went away, and we were going to do them editorially, and of course, or post production, and we couldn't do that.
Yeah,
either.
we were so over budget on this episode. This fight was so expensive, but great. I actually wrote it to come in waves so we could break it up.
Yeah.
And also just the feeling that this is that's an amazing show. Oh, it's Wesley with his guns. It's action figure Wesley.
Yeah. There's a Clint Eastwood scenario here.
Originally, there was only supposed to be one shot that was in high speed, and then I had talked to Jeff Bell right before we started filming, and I said, why don't we, try to get as much as possible? And I brought it up to you, and you were just great. Let's grab as much as we can.
Absolutely.
And it really worked in this scene. Wes bringing out the big guns. Here comes something that still amazes me. You remember we thought Mike Massa would have to do the flip up onto the ledge?
Yeah.
We'd have to do it in pieces, and he comes to us and says, "No, I can do it in one take." And sure enough, take after take, he
right
flips
there.
backward up on that wire. And we actually cut out of it before he lands, but it's a full take of him just zipping up there.
Yeah.
Everybody was just dumbfounded. Just truly
Yeah,
amazing.
and we didn't even have to do too much wire removal on this either. It's all worked pretty well.
The only thing that we really got cautioned on in this episode was the blood.
Yeah.
In the episode, I really wanted an old style '70s Hammer kind of feel.
Yeah. David was, he's way into that.
Yeah, it's really worked. It's the big blast of fire. Now here you see Lauren go through the skylight. Later on, there was no bottom to. I mean, the skylight was just the floor of the set.
Yeah.
So we couldn't just leave it there. So we just took it out of the subsequent shots, and you never miss it.
Yeah, we dropped him in on that other, portion of the set.
And this is our big, Angel always tends to win the fight, and we really wanted them to just get the crap kicked out of them. Yeah, here's a shot we were strongly cautioned on.
Yeah. He really delivers these kinds of things. I mean, these little moments. He's really very.
Here's some great work by Zoic on these effects of the pillar of fire and then the subsequent rain of fire. This was one of those things that we were worried about because, is it going to look right? And they just nailed it right off. The only comment we had was I think we slowed it down like 20% to give it kind of a gravity. But it just looks beautiful.
Yeah. This is where we had a camera failure, right? And we had to shoot it again.
I believe so, yeah.
And when the second unit came back, you'll notice that the light on him is very kind of regular.
Yes.
Which it wasn't supposed to be.
Yes.
Something about the flicker they had the settings for it, and it went off. The rheostat or whatever that was on it was not correct.
Yeah, we had to cut around it because it's very much like they're standing next to an Eat It Joe's sign.
Right. That hotel.
Yeah, and we also tried to fix it with sound effects. So when there's a flash, we'd throw in a sound of one of the.
It's not as prevalent on her.
Yeah.
On Cordelia as it is on Elizabeth. I mean, that was.
Yeah.
That was.
We.
You got. I think you got yourself around it very effectively.
There was a long debate about reshooting it, but it ended up it would have cost an exorbitant amount.
Well,
and,
that was the second time we shot it.
Yeah. And I believe this is one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive episode we had shot.
How you feel about me?
This just drove the fans absolutely nuts. They just could not believe Cordelia would sleep with Angel's son. And of course, we're thinking...
And neither could he.
Yeah, we're thinking, well, there's a reason for this, but, you're not going to find out for a while. But, everybody really flipped out. That's a beautiful shot.
Yeah, that worked. That really worked great out there. We needed more of that, didn't we? See that little tear there?
Yeah.
What a guy.
He's incredible. He's incredible. That's just beautiful. Really, we really would have loved to have had that fire effect on all of these shots of people, but we just couldn't afford it.
We thought that we had an effect that, an in-camera, because I really sort of prefer to do in-camera effects wherever we can. But as you remember, it all fell too fast.
Yeah, the spark machine.
Yeah.
It just wasn't matching.
But this works fabulous here.
Yeah.
Because I was hoping to make something, happen with this as well.
Yeah.
Apocalyptic love, correct?
That's right. They make the sweet apocalyptic love, as it says in the script. And I think you realized my vision quite handily.
What we got.
Because this is pretty saucy. Saucy for TV. There's some hip moving there that I did not think would make it into the cut, but yes, there it is.
See that effect going through there. I wanted to try to do something like that on them when the camera, particularly profile cameras, were panning their bodies, and we didn't.
Well, Vern, you did a hell of a job.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure, and
I could watch that fight over and over again. It's just it's like a dream come true.
There we go.
Congratulations.
There's Joshua. Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. It was fun. And on to year 5, right?
Yes, we are working on it as we speak. In fact, they're back at the office break, and I'm goofing off here talking about this little episode.
And some new cast members.
Yeah, James Marsters joining us. We're all very excited about that. I got a chance to work with James on Buffy, and he's a great guy. Well, there it is.
Great.
Walk down memory lane.
Grr, arg.